Today's video is titled Part 2 of Stuart Hessney's Toy Soldier Collection. We have an exclusive interview at Stuart Hessney's home in which he shares his toy soldier collection. This interview contains never-seen-before photos of Stuart Hessney's bedroom.
When you were growing up as a child, did you ever have any incidents with any family members regarding your toy soldier collection?
I have a brother who's 4 years younger than I am. But mostly what I did is I had a train table in the basement, and the train table became the toy soldier table. For whatever kind of display or battle scenario that I wanted to create. One time I came home and realized that my younger brother had taken my double-barreled BB gun and shot up my toy soldiers. And most of the toy soldiers, the plastic guys, could survive that, but he wrecked most of my tanks. So, and unfortunately for my brother, he can't run faster than I am.
Is this brother still alive?
Yeah, my brother Bill is still alive, and he's an attorney, and he comes in real handy sometimes. So
the video clip at the very beginning of this video, what can you tell us about that? About those figures?
Around the very early 2000s, William Britton started doing what they call the Holocast collection. They claimed they were using original molds. I don't know how true that was to an extent, because most of the original molds were long, long gone. A lot of those figures were actually being created by a guy in Pennsylvania that had all kinds of molds and would design things and all. But early on, one of the sets was the Fort Henry Guard, and they were marching figures like this. I don't know if you can see this on the camera. At the time, they were some guys vilified them because they looked more like a British Fusilier than a Canadian Fort Henry. British soldiers that served at Fort Henry in the 1800s. But to me, this figure epitomizes toy soldier charm. That's the thing to me. I'm not looking for minute historical accuracy when I am buying a classic toy soldier kind of figure. And I can't tell you off the top of my head how many original Britain's Fort Henry Guard bands I have, how many of the original Fort Henry Guards I have, Fort Henry Guards by other makers. I even have some of the old Britain's Fort Henry Guards that came out of the Malcolm Forbes collection. One of a dealer, sorry, he's passed away now, but he knew I was a nut about the Fort Henry Guards. So he says, I went to the auction. My wife didn't want me to go. And a lot of the stuff had been came from the museum in Morocco. Malcolm Forbes had a mansion palace in Morocco in Tangiers, and that's where he kept his toy soldier collection. And the conditions there weren't good for toy soldiers maintaining their quality and structural integrity. So apparently a lot of the stuff in the auction was crap, but people were spending a lot of money for it because it belonged to Malcolm Forbes. So my friend sat there, and finally a group of Fort Henry Guards came up. And he was like, I'm not going home empty-handed. And he bought these Fort Henry Guards, and he called me up and said, do you want them? And I was a very reasonable price. It's not like I have deep pockets, but it's funny to me that I actually have those. But I started collecting these, and I started out with maybe 3 of these sets. And I just think they look really great on parade. And I just very recently found the most recent one of those sets to complete my goal. I have 38 of these sets.
Now, have you counted up?
I have 304 of this one figure. That's how silly I am. So. But they look good to me.
Yeah. I noticed that you've got a display table that has a Ford on it, and I believe it's the Trojan horse.
Oh yeah,
Is
that's my completely anachronistic ancient history display. It's LOD Enterprises out of Wisconsin. He's actually from the Green Bay, Wisconsin area, the home of the Packers. Ken Siak. He's made Greeks. He's made the Greeks. He's made the Trojans. He's made the walls of Troy. He made a Trojan horse. My wife Sally gave me the Trojan horse for Christmas one year. I've never been so happy in my life. But ancient history is, again, one of the things that I'm interested in. And actually, my display is a completely anachronistic display. There's probably about 3,000 years of ancient history there and mythology. If you look closely, there's a minotaur running through the display. There's Amazons. There's Egyptians fighting Romans, but very ancient Egyptians fighting Romans. And here comes the Greek phalanx right behind them, and on and on and on. So it's just so I can. It's a place where I can have as much out as possible, so I can see it and play it. I just on TV. There's a new Alexander the Great docudrama. It's history, but they're using actors to act out the scenes and all. So I'm like, oh, I gotta go check how many figures of Alexander the Great do I have and who made them. I gotta go refresh my memory. So I bought another piece of glass so I could turn it into divide the bottom in half so I could have two displays. So the top display is my ancient history. The middle display is a Crimean War, and it's a Battle of Balaclava mashup. You've got the charge of the Light Brigade kind of going on at the same time as the Thin Red Line, actually, the only guy here in town that I ever have known that collected toy soldiers, he got to be late in life. I helped connect him with selling off some of his stuff. And one day in the mail came this very, very heavy standard postal box. And it was about 70 to 100 of the frontline figures making up the complete Thin Red Line. And my friend didn't even bother to wrap them up in paper or bubble wrap or anything, but they mostly survived. I feel bend it back. It was the most generous thing. And then, of course, well, now what am I going to do? Now I need. I also had gotten some of the Old Britain's Hussars from him. He had a larger display set of them. The cherry pickers. So, now I got to go and find, Britain's made infantry, frontline made infantry, frontline, and Gerard Prime and his partner Howard Swales were good friends of mine. Gerard is still with me. He's one of the funniest guys I know. They made beautiful Russian cavalry. So, I have a couple of, and it's all based on the painting, the famous painting. So I've got the Crimean War going, but there's all different makers again there as usual. I don't stick to one maker. It's a mix. There's some king and country stuff. There's Britons. There's frontline.
Now you've got a wooden cabinet that's mounted to the wall, and it looks like on the top is some sort of a figure. It looks like it's 4 white horses pulling a carriage that I believe royalty is sitting in.
Yeah, that's actually a corgi set that I found in Florida. It's a Queen Mother in that set. And it's a little bit under scale. I don't know what the scale is. Maybe it's more like 50 rather than 54 millimeter. It doesn't really fit in with my other toy soldiers, but it was like a special presentation piece. They did other things at that time, like a figure of Princess Diana that's like, probably she might even be an inch taller than a 60 millimeter toy soldier. A very statuesque woman,
Right.
But that is another one of my the coronation coach and carriages like that are another one of the things that I'm interested in. And I've gotten into, besides the 54 millimeter stake coaches by all different makers and different versions that were
sort of wooden cabinet. What about the figures that are inside the cabinet?
Well, it's actually right here next to me, and it's basically all Britain's glass special collections they did, like the Petticoats Classics collection, women's fashions through history, and then the rest of it is just all different one-off traditional style toy soldiers that Britain's made. They were all sold singly. You might, if you really liked one, you might want to buy a bunch of them to make up, a group, but they're basically all single figures. They called it the Redcoats Classic Collection, I think, and then there's Blue Coats too. They did U.S. themes. So,
okay. Stuart, this is a family YouTube channel. You have provided me with photographs throughout your house, and basically you've got displays of toy soldiers in every room in your house, including your bedroom. I'm going to put up the photograph of your display of toy soldiers that's found in your bedroom. Is on the top shelf of that glass unit, is there a Viking ship up there?
Oh yeah, that's an old Aurora plastic Viking ship, basically about HO scale. And how to explain this? I found that in a local junk shop but that was a model kit you could buy and put together. And what I didn't know when I was a kid, going back to the Airfix, besides Airfix, my other, probably the brand that really got me going on collecting toy soldiers was called Giant. Ironically, the figures were like this tall, and I didn't know it as a kid, but a lot of those figures were pantographed, copied in Hong Kong. They would copy Britain's figures, like the Britain's Herald Trojans and things like that, and they would copy Mark's figures. And when I was a kid, I probably had at least 3. Giant also made Viking longships. I think I might have had at least 3 or 4 of them, and Vikings to crew them. And they had the shields down the sides, and they had the oars. And I might still have only the shell of one of those. Those things go for a lot of money now. That's a very rare collectible. And as you go through life, maybe it took me 30 years to figure it out, but Giant had copied these longships from that Airfix, or I'm sorry, that wasn't Airfix. I think it was Aurora or something. I think it was Aurora. This plastic model kit that they had done in the 50s, early 60s. I don't know how far back that goes, but it had to be around that time frame.
Now, can you tell us about some of the figures that are in that glass display case? It's sort of
there's 2 stacked on top of each other. And
right. Oh, okay.
There's a glass one stacked on top of a wooden one, and from top to bottom it goes. I actually have some Serum soldiers. There's a Gold Rush right on the top of the cabinet, and some World War II stuff. Flying Tigers. Fagarty made that many years ago. Then down at the next shelf down is English Civil War. The next shelf down from that is about a lot of very old German flats. Probably the oldest toy soldiers I have is one of those sets of German flats that go back to probably later 1800s. And it's a complete French camp scene. Tents. They're cooking. There's even smoke curling up out of the guy's pipes and so on and so forth. It's pretty amazing what they can do in that format. Just slate molds, pouring a little metal, flat figures, and beautifully painted. The next shelf down from that is it's kind of I want to make it better, but it's kind of my Old West saloon display. I actually have 2 mariachi bands playing in that saloon. There's dancing girls. There's a cowboy using his pistol to shoot at the feet of a dude, to make him dance. All these little things are going on in there. There's actually a bank heist going over in one corner. Then the next shelf down is French Napoleonics by different makers. Then in the cabinet below that, there's it's just a mishmash of various figures. A shelf of figures by Collector Showcase. That it's basically Polish Lancers versus the Scots Greys as they appeared at Waterloo. And then what's the next one? Oh, and then there's another shelf of mishmash, just, random figures that don't fit in anywhere else. And then from there down, it's all composition. It's all German composition. Some Japanese in there too. And the main shelves are, World War II period or pre-World War II period Germans and American doughboys in different scales. They didn't stick to just one scale. So, and then there's, things like tanks and horse-drawn artillery and wagons and things like that go with them.
Well, Stuart,